When we were kids, we were told that our imagination was a window to the future. With it, we could make anything possible. So, we imagined incredible things, fantastic places, and outlandish adventures. And this was how we saw our futures. But as time wore on and we grew up, we started to realize that if we wanted the things we imagined to come true, what we imagined had to be more realistic. So we slowly let those fantastical dreams slip away. But let's say just for a second you could go back in time, and without any logical, grown-up limitations, you could imagine the ultimate pure sport side-by-side. What would it be? What would it look like? Today, I give you a glimpse into the mind of every young motorhead dreamer. Today I give you Can-Am's Maverick X3 X DS. Futuristic. That would be the best way to describe the look of Can-Am's new flagship Pure Sport side-by-side. If you enclosed the cage and took off the wheels, it could easily pass as a spaceship. But a cool appearance isn't what makes a great side-by-side great. So Can-Am started with function, and they started with the chassis. Now, they had two goals for this chassis. It had to be light and it had to be rigid. And they accomplished both of these goals by utilizing an exotic steel they'd found was being used in the supercar industry, called dual-phase 980. Can-Am engineers identified early on that the best way to get the most consistent performance from your vehicle's suspension is to ensure the chassis it's bolted to is extremely rigid. Mission accomplished with the X3 chassis, which meant it was time to bolt up a dual A-arm front end with its arched lower arms that yield 20 inches of wheel travel, mated to a trophy truck-inspired 4-link trailing arm rear end that also yields 20 inches of travel on the XDS and up to 24 inches on the XRS model. All four corners of our XDS are damped by massive Fox 2.5 podium RC2s that are three-way adjustable. Now, 20 inches of travel is a lot, but what if it doesn't work? That'd be a shame. Luckily, it's not the case. Travel is pillowy soft and it feels deep. It's also progressive, so bottoming isn't a problem. Ergonomics were also high on the list of priorities when designing the X3 chassis. It's the chassis that ultimately determines where and how the occupants are seated in a vehicle, and with a clean slate to work from, Can-Am was able to develop the most aggressive and ergonomically correct seating position we've ever experienced. What makes the ergonomics so good inside the X3 is a combination of layout and design. The seating position itself is the most laid-back and cart style of any side-by-side to date, and it's adjustable if you don't want to lay back quite so far. Seats designed by a company who supplies seats for Ferrari are one-piece molded designs Can-Am calls Ergo-Lock. The bolstering is specifically designed to hug your body and keep you locked in. It works, and perhaps equally as important, the seats remain comfortable for all types of riding. If there was one thing about the interior we think isn't perfect, it would be the steering wheel. We feel it's just a bit on the small side, and it's definitely way too flexible. When I was a kid, turbos weren't really a thing. The old adage, "there's no replacement for displacement," conjured up images of big-bore, high-cylinder count engines in my fantasy vehicles. This is the decade of the turbo, though. And while a turbo can make anything better, a turbocharged 3-cylinder engine is just a special combination. The X3's 900cc turbocharged and intercooled engine is referred to as the ACE and produces 154 horsepower with next to no turbo lag, thanks to the turbo being part of the exhaust manifold. "154 horsepower in a pure sport side-by-side is kind of like, it's like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. In the X3 though, it's not just good, it's incredible, but maybe not in the way you're thinking. A new CVT transmission Can-Am calls the QRS-X consists of larger 6-roller primary and 3-roller secondary clutches that pinch a wider drive belt and is responsible for the smoothest and most linear power delivery of any performance vehicle we've ever driven. Can-Am has always been known for very abrupt clutching and aggressive throttle tip-in on their highest performance vehicles. The X3, though, is the complete opposite. Engagement is buttery smooth and power delivery is actually on the soft side. Though when the boost starts to rise, you better be holding on, because speeds are going to climb so fast it can catch you off guard. The X3 X DS package is 64 inches wide, so it's pretty standard for a pure sport side-by-side. The width definitely helps make it more stable, but much of its very predictable handling characteristics are thanks to its 4-link rear end's nearly scrub-free operation, excellent sway control both front and rear, and its extremely precise short-ratio tri-mode power steering system. As is so often the case with exciting new vehicles like the Maverick X3, there simply isn't enough time in one test ride to go over all the exciting new technology and design elements that make this vehicle so special. There are a few secondary features though that we think are worth noting. 14-inch aluminum beadlock wheels and 29-inch Maxxis bighorns are a great combo anywhere your imagination may take you. Trick LED lighting adds to the X3's overall futuristic feel, and semi-halfish doors will keep you in and most debris out. Multiple drive modes and a throttle limiting learn key help keep the incredibly powerful X3 controllable in any situation, and even for newer drivers. I can just picture a young boy in Quebec sitting at his desk drawing pictures of the ultimate off-road vehicle they'd imagined in their mind. Long travel, big horsepower, futuristic looks, it's all the same stuff you and I imagined when we were kids. When the time came for Can-Am to build the ultimate pure sport side-by-side, they needed imagination. They needed people to think like they did as kids, with no limits or restrictions, and no one telling them that the ideas they had were unrealistic or impossible. And that's exactly what they got. Underneath it all, the X3 was born in the minds of imaginative dreamers. It was Can-Am who brought it into reality for us all to marvel.
Like the video you just saw? Do you want to see more? Click the subscribe link and add the Trax channel, and you're going to see a whole lot more great content.